All right, today is Tuesday, November 21st. Today, this is the SIG cluster lifecycle meeting, and we will get started with our first agenda item, which is reviewer shift inside of command kubeadm owners file. Lucas, want to give an update?
Yeah, so basically it's time for us to, kubeadm have turned a year now, and we still have the same initial approvers file as we had a year ago. But the actual reviewers and contributors to the project has shifted over time, as should be. And now the proposal is to add 4 new reviewers, 1 new approver, and remove 3 reviewers from the list. Are there any objections to these? I've checked with the people, and I think it should be okay. But this kind of mass shift requires just at least a mention in this meeting.
Is Moyer here to defend himself? Oh, he is. I was going to say maybe we could add Moyer to the reviewers list.
Absolutely.
Is that okay with you, Moyer? Do you have enough bandwidth?
So I have been short on bandwidth for the last few weeks, but I hope to increase that. So yeah, I would love to be in there.
And I would love to be removed as well. I would ask, are we following the ladder, or is that sort of, because I mean, there are people that we are, I was certainly not technically qualified, and technically, Tim, you're not qualified. And I haven't checked everyone else, but I was those are the ones that are easy to do. I'm not qualified. I wasn't qualified to be on there. And the process for being an approver is you must be God effectively. And I'm sorry to say, Tim, that you are not, but
I'm approver in a number of different areas in the code. So I have enough experience in.
I'm not disputing that, but I'm the technical qualifications are that you must have made 30 PRs to the subtree and have reviewed 10 significant things and been there for 18 years of experience in Go and all this sort of stuff. It's so I'm totally happy with what we're doing here. I'm just it's more of a meta question, particularly Tim as someone on the steering committee, of whether we are still observing that strictly and how strictly we're doing that.
I don't think that's ever been observed strictly. I think there's been a lot of grandfathering and other things that have come into place there. There has been a comment in the steering committee to address roles and responsibilities of SIGs, but that is priority 2 at this point of the steering committee. The most important one is still the incubation issue that seems to be ongoing. And so it's definitely it's on the radar, but folks have not prioritized it in priority order. I do think that as a project, we have a very big problem with the number of people that can approve changes. And that is a actually huge problem, because I am waiting on approval for a PR that I have had open since August 2nd. What is date? So it's a huge conundrum that exists in the project. And I think the original manifestation or creation of those roles was through Brian, and it wasn't necessarily done by a broader group. So I think it's subject to change, and I think it's subject to the roles and responsibilities of the SIG.
That seems fair. So we can observe maybe the spirit, but not necessarily the letter of the law.
Yeah, and also, and when we added kubeadm, it was impossible to have this 18 years of experience with the project. So we basically just added 6-7 people or so, where Justin as well was there, and things like that. We don't still, as you said, follow the exact dates, but they aren't necessarily required in this case. It's more the participation and involvement level. And Tim has indeed reviewed at least 10 significant PR last cycle.
They're all yours.
So yeah, that should be okay. I'll add Moya there as well. That sounds really good.
I know on the agenda items, the next one we have is unofficial meetup in Austin. But before that, I wanted to quickly discuss any freeze items that we need to address, in part because freeze is coming this Wednesday. Are there any things that require like immediate attention or review within our SIG, or if we can help poke somebody else that requires attention? I have poked Yuju literally dozens and dozens of times on my PR, and I have poked her again last night, and I poked other Google folks last night. So hopefully, by the grace of God and other deities, we'll have progress on that one. But besides that one, which is the checkpointing, are there other issues that folks are aware of that require further prodding or assistance to get in before the end of cycle?
So this time as well, I've been the milestone code freeze lead for Kubernetes. We have 20 issues open still, but most of them are going to be closed just as the Summit queue merges PRs. Which of them should be mentioned here? For example, we'll enable certificate rotation, because otherwise, folks' API serving cert will expire before they have a chance to upgrade to Kubernetes 110. So this is kind of significant. And Peter has been kind enough to send a PR that's going to soon be merged. Then we have component config for the proxy, which is cool. Going pretty soon. The etcd upgrade PR went in this weekend. One issue though is Sergey here. Yeah. One issue that Sergey observed was that etcd rollback wasn't necessarily working the way it should be. I haven't manually checked yet, but we should definitely make sure this time that 3.1 back to 3.0, that rollback must work, because, well, for obvious reasons. Since we claim to support upgrades, we also should claim to support downgrades, and this time it involves an etcd version change as well.
I was just going to say, if there was another discussion of etcd2 to the etcd3 upgrade on the developer mailing list, and I think I was suckered into basically volunteering to do some work to do that. And the thing I'm thinking of doing, my role plan is first of all getting the backup and restore disaster recovery working. So it may be easier to work on a backup restore procedure for rollbacks than it is for downgrades than it is to get etcd to rely on a sole vendor to deliver what they promise. So if anyone wants to help me on that, I will gladly welcome any help or has any pointers on a nice etcd upgrade, etcd backup restore thing that they'd like. That would be cool.
So are you thinking of a generic one or something like, and there is one already for GKE, right? That does this schema change and all things.
Yeah, it has to. So it has to work across. Are you talking about the upgrade pod? The pod which does the upgrade, or are you talking? Yeah, as far as I understand that, yeah, this would be more of a disaster recovery type thing that is more independent from etcd. And the core requirement is that it has to be able to back up on etcd2 and restore on etcd3, and therefore presumably etcd3 and etcd2, right? Other than that, I don't think it's practical to do a lot more. Like, I don't want to do the full ARC, Heptio's ARC thing, right? Which is a lot more involved. But maybe that's the minimum solution.
I was going to make a plug for ARC, but it doesn't deal with straight up etcd, it deals with the resources. So
Yeah, I mean, to me,
that kind of abstracts away the problem, right? Anyway.
that is to me is correct, but API machinery hates that approach for some reason, which is bizarre to me, but they hate that.
I don't know who in API machinery hates that approach, but
Clayton.
Clayton hates that approach because they're using it. So on OpenShift.
Well, Clayton hated it when I did it. Maybe
Yeah.
Clayton doesn't hate it if he does it.
Clayton has many opinions. So I've known Clayton for many years. So his opinions change over time and they evolve. So I think he might hate aspects of it, but I haven't gotten a full TLDR from him. So maybe I should poke him and ask him what his thoughts are there.
All right, cool.
Are there any other major code freeze items that we need to address that folks are aware of?
So, well, there are a couple of related to KubeADM, yes, but I have them in tracking, so should be under control, I think. For example, dynamic kubelet configuration landed last week, which is cool. Still in alpha though, but we will help Mike Dorfman to push this to beta as well by like having it ED tested in KubeADM. This for background information, this is a feature that makes it possible to configure all the kubelets in your cluster using a base config map. So you can basically you can make information of the state of the decide state in the cluster flow down from your masters to your nodes, which is a thing we can't now. Right now we have the bizarre kubelet kubeadm drop in a systemd.conf file in the debs and RPMs. We can eventually get rid of this as we store things in component versioned API inside of the cluster in the config map that is then distributed to all kubelets. So Peter has been a great help here, and recently made a PR to do so. I said it's alpha, so we're not going to enable it in 1.9, but it's going to be a forerunner for the next release. So
I poked Talfin because he squatted on my PR and asked me to make a change because of that. Are you sure it's not going to beta this release cycle? Because his push, let me see if I can dig up his comment here.
Yeah, it's not going to beta. Hopefully the kubelet API group is going to beta. I really hope so, but that is also uncertain. But the kubelet dynamic configuration still has some tweaks to be done in order to work. Hopefully the kubelet API itself will be beta. That's the plan.
Okay.
Which I guess you're thinking about.
Well, he says in moving the kubelet configuration to beta was his exact words.
Yeah, exactly. So that is hopefully going to make beta, but not the kubelet dynamic configuration loading, pulling from the cluster and things. But in 1.10, and that will make it possible to do things like right now, if you configure your service header to something else instead of the default, you will have to go to each kubelet, get into the systemd file, and change the value there for the DNS server, and it's horrible. So this is going to make it possible to flow that information down to all nodes.
All right. So it sounds like we have the release in fairly reasonable control. I did want to maybe solicit this group because one thing we've always had a problem with, and I'll just comment on it, is that we don't really vet or test the full deployment of things until after the release is fully cut. It would be ideal if we could start to potentially have a way for the broader ecosystem to start to vet things a little bit sooner where possible. And I know that we won't get debs and RPMs regenerated before then, but there's ways to hack around this. So if we have folks who are interested, and maybe we can send an email to the list, if we have folks who are interested, there's a way we can start to beta test the alpha and beta releases before we get to the point where we're actually cutting the actual release.
Yeah, like the process so far has been basically myself and a couple of other guys manually hacking things on VMs, trying to validate things. Like the 2-3 days before we're cutting in a place where we basically can't do changes anymore. So definitely would love some help, but that needs work from myself and others to spec out the guide how to do this thing. I mean, it's not hard, but it needs documentation, right? Because nobody knows it's possible unless it is in our docs.
Yeah, I think maybe what I can do, that seems reasonable. I'm signing myself up for things, aren't I? It seems reasonable to have a little like hack guide to beta testing. And it can outline how you can mock your system to unifiles with a per tag build, and then you can do this on your own environment. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. I don't think that will take too long, and maybe we can have uniformity on how we do some of the pre-release testing.
Yeah, George.
Yeah, I just wanted to say even after release, so I wanted to test kubeadmin upgrades, and it was release day, and I started doing the upgrade, but the packages took about another 24 hours to build. So even like I couldn't even get to the pre-release part because like the release part, and I had my test cluster was in this weird state where the control plane was upgraded because I already read through all the instructions because they went live on the site. And then I realized that there were no packages there.
Yeah, that was due to Anago failure, unfortunately. Yeah. So yeah, the one.
Like if we can have that experience when it's an alpha release, then that would be okay. I think. Like.
Yeah, and I mean it was kind of okay anyway due to the failure with Anago. So basically, it stopped working in between. It was some Docker push failure or whatever to GCR. Then basically it was 4 a.m. or something for the release team, and they just went to sleep.
Can someone? I know that Jace last release cycle did an early iteration of the release notes. Do we have, if I get this document out and I'm able to push it out to the community, do we have like a listing of all the major feature enhancements somewhere that we can reference that says like, hey, we have an updated version of kubeadm, here's the feature list? Because folks will enable or disable weird stuff. They do all the time.
This is something I guess I should.
I just saw a feature spreadsheet scroll by on Kate's dev.
Yeah, I mean that's not. That's works,
not the release notes.
That's not the thing
but
I
it
would
be linked from there, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'll look.
Jace did a great job. In fact, we think we should make him do it every cycle. that's the punishment / privilege of doing a good job at something.
Well, sounds familiar. Well, yeah, I should put something together soon. I mean, a couple of notes I've done this for, like in my KubeCon slides and things. So, and when I presented at the community meeting last week and such things. So, yeah, I'll ping me if you see the request somewhere, and I'll fill in the high level teams.
Okay.
And then, yeah, generally what we need help with is, as you said, testing, but also documentation. We definitely need more people updating our docs. Fabrizio has done a great work with the man pages, which is still a bit work in progress. Will be finished soon, but still we need people going through every single line and checking, validating, is this true anymore? things like that. Moyer helped us last time, which was great. But we need someone that we know can do it, right? Any volunteers in this group?
Maybe we can, as part of the effort for the ending of the cycle, we can send out an email saying we need help with the following things. And that could be one of those things too as well.
Yeah, yeah. A related question, Justin, when is COPS 1.8 gonna be around? Do we know?
When Kubernetes 1.8 is ready.
When COPS?
Yeah, I said when Kubernetes 1.8 is ready. We do a sort of curation thing, and we have hopefully soon. Typically, this is later than we like. Obviously, there are some pretty serious. The aggregate API server blowing up clusters thing is giving me pause. We're seeing also some Calico issues. So yeah, but when I hope we get 1.8 out before 1.9 lands, right? Otherwise, it's just becoming silly. And hopefully, we can get 1.9 out faster. But we don't do time-based releases. We do stability-based releases.
Yeah, sounds good. I just wanted to know what the status is there. Do we have any? Does COP support something like -- run with the latest Kubernetes version anyway, although it's not working?
You can like we end-to-end tests like are running against 1.9 right now, right? So yeah, you can specify any Kubernetes version you want. It's just that the 1.8 release of COPS is the one that actually, so yes, you can like run the 1.8.0 alpha, whatever we're on, or beta, right? And you can like specify Kubernetes 1.9. It's just that the release of 1.8.0 of COPS signifies that we believe that it is a good idea to run Kubernetes 1.8 with COPS 1.8.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. So that's pretty much the highlights for release and updates. Next agenda item was unofficial meetup in Austin.
Actually, I had one more.
You do?
It struck me now. Yeah, so I've been doing the release team communication for the 2-3 last releases or something. It would be great. I wrote up a doc about what I did, like a playbook or something, which I'll share here. Basically, this is something we also could spread around to more people. So just wanted to highlight that this is a role that someone could volunteer to take from the KubeADM side if needed, and here are docs how to do it.
I think maybe at the contributor meetup we can discuss this, because there will be a contributor meetup and we can start to talk about like who could potentially get involved this cycle and commit to it. And I'll talk with Joe too about what obligations I'm going to have the next cycle as well. So
cool. Thanks.
Right. Next topic relates to this, was the unofficial meetup in Austin. Did we want to hit? First off, do we have a time slot? And if not, there's also the developer meeting too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just something that Craig, some other people, and myself just started chatting about if we're going to have a formal. So this time, we're not going to have a formal SIG cluster lifecycle meeting as we've had the 2 earlier KubeCons. We had one at Google where Robert was the host in Seattle, and we had one in Berlin where Luke was the host. But yeah, not this time. But then instead we could have whatever, something unofficial if there's a time that fits.
I would love to meet. I'm not getting in until Tuesday late afternoon though. Maybe something later on Tuesday, the 5th.
George, do you have the itinerary for that whole week?
Yeah, give me a second.
Okay.
Sidebar.
Who's Craig, by the way? I don't know which Craig you meant.
Craig Tracy, that recently got hired by Heptio. He doesn't seem to be here.
Is that the agenda you were looking for, Tim?
I don't know if it has all the developer meetings for the different SIGs. It does. Yeesh, this is like shocking.
Yeah, it's kind of a rainbow explosion.
I do think, I don't know how long folks are going to stay around. It looks like on swagging it, it looks like there's probably going to be space at the end of the the end of the week. I don't know. I'd have to take a look at the evening things too, but it doesn't look like there is. Maybe we can go through it with more detail after this meeting and propose an idea. Does that seem reasonable?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Lucas Robert, KubeCon Austin presentations. The next agenda item is the slides. Lucas, did you want to go through that? Lucas, can you hear me?
Now, maybe?
Yeah. The next agenda item was the KubeCon slides, the presentation.
Yep. Just, I hope you can see them. Yeah, it broke for me for some seconds. Can you access them?
I can see the link to the presentation. Trying to see if I see the link to the slides.
It should be attached to the, well, I could actually attach the online slides as well. That's probably more useful than the PDF version attached to SCAD. Basically, Robert and myself are gonna do SIG cluster lifecycle update. So, well, there we could sync up as well if we like to, but that's during KubeCon, so it's always too much things going on, right? At the same time. So, but anyway, that's happening, and I have a presentation on KubeADM things as well. That is more technical, and Robert and Chris are giving a talk on the cluster API. The slides deadline was yesterday, so we should all have our slides ready now.
Okay. So if folks want to review or have comments or questions, should they just post updates to you, or how do you? Is there feedback that you wanted to get from this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Fabrizio already gave me some feedback on it. I will soon check that out and address. But sure. I mean, I think anyone should have comment access to this. let me know if not. So you should be able to give feedback there.
Okay. Sounds good. The last item that I see there on the list is UX for a issue, which is issue number 519, better usability for the join token. Moira, do you want to speak to this
I
one?
can describe what that is. I had hoped to take this on, but I've not had time. It looks like someone else is assigned now. The gist of this is when you do Kubernetes init, you get lots of nice debugging output. One of those things is the copy pastable join command. You can copy paste to a worker node to join. Previously, prior to 1.8, that join command was also pretty easy to just generate yourself because the only thing that varied was the token. Now that we added the key fingerprinting for the server, it's like you can still generate it yourself, but it's more work. So we wanted to basically, to make this thing more usable, add a new command to print that join command on demand, so that if you come back to your cluster that was initialized before, you want to add a new worker, you can just say on the master, give me the join command, and then copy paste that. I think it's a relatively small PR, but it's pushing up against the. I don't think there is a PR. I think it's a relatively small issue, but we're pushing up against the freeze here.
I don't know if this qualifies, if this can break convention, because usually this is feature free state, right? Like this is where you have to get all the new modifications in.
This is kind of a feature. It's not really. I mean, it's not really fixing a bug, unless the bug is the usability of the key pending.
You could argue it is without it, people aren't going to run insecure, and without the validation, and therefore it is pushing people towards a buggy behavior. If you want to push it.
Yeah. The other thing is you can generate. I mean, you can, if you're building an installer today, you can generate the join command. Like you have to pull in sort of like OpenSSL to generate the key fingerprint if you have the server certificate, which is annoying, but it's not impossible right now. So this is just a usability feature.
Is the not impossible command documented anywhere?
Yeah, it's in the Kubernetes docs under the join command.
Moira, are you?
Go ahead, Lucas.
Can't hear you, Lucas, but I assume you're asking me if I'm going to work on this. The answer is I don't think I have time to do it this week.
I think there can be a case probably made for this, to add this as an addition if we need to or want to at the end of the cycle. It doesn't seem like it would be it's not a stretch, right? Other things are definitely a stretch. Any new, basically net new behavior, this is like expanding upon existing behavior and making it more usable. So I think that falls in this weird gray area where folks are generally okay with those type of changes. The API changes after today are usually frowned upon, but
I would be inclined to bump the priority of this up just because the scope of kubeadm is very clearly secure and easy to use. And if this piece is not easy to use, then it's going to be unlikely that people will run it secure.
Yeah, the other change that already landed for this release is turning the insecure warning that we had in 1.8 into an error. So now in 1.9 you'll have to either pass in the key pending argument, which is annoying it's annoying to generate right now, or you have to pass in the flag that says you're running in insecure mode. So it is going to be sort of press the issue for more people, because you can't just ignore that warning anymore. You have to actually do something to fix it.
Exactly.
It'd be great if there's something you did to fix it was to opt into the secure mode instead of opting out.
Yeah. So we concluded some meetings ago that this is prerequisite for enforcing this behavior. We need this thing. Peter has volunteered to do this, but more if you're available like in the coming hours, it would be great because time zones make it easier for you to do this now than Peter, who's in China, I think. So, so yeah. Do you see that possible during the?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it, and maybe we can at least get a PR up, and if it misses the deadline, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Also, so a small implementation detail is that we actually can have multiple tokens, right? So we don't know exactly which token we should print in a command, because well, the we could do things like if there's only one token, print that one. If there's only one token with the right properties, print that one, and otherwise ask the user which token do you want to see.
So what I was thinking is adding a new flag to token create. So you can just create a new token, and you specify that the thing you want output is not the token ID, it's the join command. So that would be like one use case where you're building an installer. You want to generate a new token to provision a set of nodes. You just generate the token. The other, I also propose maybe adding a token get command. So token get and then token ID with sort of similar semantics where you can tell it you just want the full token with the secret, or that you want to print the join command for that token ID.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, I'm running low on battery, like 1% or so left. So if I'm dropping off now,
should this be is this actually, I feel like in the short term you should definitely do it in kubeadm. Is this a kubeadm specific functionality, or is this bootstrap tokens? Like, should this be in kubectl describe bootstrap token, for example?
Yes, it should be in kubectl, but it's kind of staged in under kubeadm right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Given reality.
So there might be actually a use case where in kubectl we add a command just to print the certificate hash, or just to output the certificate hash, because that's kind of the building block. And then the kubeadm specific thing is like munging that together to make the joint command.
Okay. I don't know if Lucas's battery has died yet or not, but we are out of agenda items. Are there any more topics that folks wanted to discuss? Going once, twice, 3 times. I think we can possibly end early for once. Give you back 14 minutes. And if we don't see folks before then, happy holidays of some type for you. I know the folks in the US will probably be off on Thursday and Friday. So take care.